Okay, Jenna, this is kind of for you. I don't know if anyone else is going to need to see this video, but it's going to be everything that's going to be on the quiz tomorrow on Tuesday, and we're basically covering section 4.3 in the book, but it's a big section. You want to look at your homework assignments on page 381, because we had several homework assignments, one that goes back to last week, and we'll go through and talk about what the questions are. All right. First topic on the quiz is from problem number 1 and number 2 on page 381. There will be a problem like that where you have to name coterminal angles. I'll actually read the quiz question to you, assuming I have it. Yeah, there it is. Go something like this. Identify the one angle that is not coterminal with all of the others, and I give you a series of angles, like negative pi over 3, pi over 3, let's say 7 pi over 3, 13 pi over 3, and 19 pi over 3. Remember, coterminal means the two angles are off each other or offset by 360 degrees or 2 pi. Since this one is dealing with radian measures and not degrees, we don't need to worry about 360 degrees, but rather the 2 pi, which is equal. Since we're dealing with the third as a fraction, I'll just get a common denominator and say that's the same as 6 pi over 3.
Oh my God.
And I'm sure that showed up. And okay, so go through and identify. I'll give you guys a chance in class to look at it. Which angle is not coterminal with the others, because it's not. There's not a difference of 6 pi over 3.
Pi over 3.
Okay. Any other answers?
Negative pi over 3.
Negative pi over 3. And if you compare the first to your right, it's got to be one of these two, because they're off each other when you subtract by 2 pi over 3, which clearly isn't a difference of 6 pi over 3. These two seem to line up. They're separated by 6 pi. These two seem to line up or be coterminal because they're 6 pi over 3. It looks like 7 and 1 pi are also paired up and coterminal with each other. So the correct answer actually is not those two. Oops. It's just negative pi over 3. I'll cut that out. There we go. Sure. Would you like it in degrees or in radian measure? Okay. Yeah, it is on the quiz. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right.
Questions are going to be on the quiz. There's only 5 questions on the quiz.
No, I'll go through and tell you in a second. So we got negative 8 pi over 3. We've got 2 pi over 5. 2 pi over 5. Yeah. 12 pi over 5. 20 pi over 5. And 22 pi over 5. And maybe you can look at it and tell right away which two you've got to be looking at because they're just too close together. Which ones aren't separated by 2 pi? Now, get a common denominator. 5 is your denominator, so what's 2 pi equal? 10 pi. So look for things that aren't separated by 10 pi. So look at all of them. Do you see how some of them are separated by 10 pi over 5? That's 2 pi. That's separated by 10 pi over 5. That's 2 pi. So, Brianna, which one were you thinking it was? Yeah, that's the odd one out. Those are separated by 10 pi over 5. Jump it on over to 22 over pi. That's 10 pi over 5. They're all separated by 10 pi over 5, which is 2 pi. It's sort of like if I ask you, when will it be the same time on the clock? And if I say, these are your choices. Negative 1 hour ago, 6 hours from now, positive 6 hours from now, positive 18 hours from now, positive 30 hours from now and positive 42 hours from now, yeah, -1's the one that wouldn't be the same time on the clock, because you know that every 12 hours the clock has the same time showing if it's a 12-hour clock. And 6, 18, 30, and 42. I don't even need to know what time it is right now to know that to be a fact. Whatever time it is right now, 6 hours from now is the same as 18 hours from now on a 12-hour clock.
And it's always 2 pi. Like you always compare it to 2 pi.
Because 2 pi is once around the circle.
And so how did you get it to be 10 pi?
Oh.
You just write it out. Sorry. Like visually.
Exactly. Sure. Since we're dealing with fractions, let me just ask you this. What fraction over 5 with a denominator of 5 is equal to 2? 10. 2 times 5 is 10. So the fact that that's 2 pi and that's 10 pi, same thing.
So we just like have to circle the wrong.
Mm-hmm. Circle the one that's the odd one out, that is not coterminal with the others. The question will actually say identify the one angle that is not coterminal with the all the others. Look at question number 2 on your review. And if it had been in degrees, which it may be for the test, you do the same thing only with 360. Easy enough? Okay. Question number 2 deals with a problem like 3 through 6 on your homework. So number 2 on the quiz is like the homework numbers 3 through 6. I give you a point. Let's say I give you the point -3, 4. And the question will be this. Point P is on the coterminal side of angle theta. Evaluate the 3 trigonometric functions for theta. So sine, cosine, and tangent. Find sine of theta, cosine of theta, and tangent theta. Yes, it is.
So if the picture looks like that, we're trying to find that angle.
Well, right. You're still going to find the reference triangle, even though theta. So 1, 2, -3 is there. 1, 2, 3, 4 is there. Even though the terminal side goes like that. This is the theta. But we're going to use this reference triangle over here, where that's 4, that's -3, and we're going to work off what I call theta prime, that reference triangle, to find all of your measures. But keep the negative sign for the cosine. Start out by using the Pythagorean theorem.
It's like their dream come true.
All right, step number 1. Find the hypotenuse, and it's just the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and you may already know that the hypotenuse side has to be 5 from a 3, 4, 5 triangle. I hope you have that memorized. Oh, it'll save you so much time on the ACT if you have that memorized, because they use it too often. Half the time their Pythagorean theorems are 3, 4, 5, or 6, 8, 10, which is just doubled, or 5, 12, 13. So opposite divided by hypotenuse is 4/5. Cosine, -3. Be sure to keep the negative. The hypotenuse is always positive, so it's -3 over 5. And then finally, the tangent is -4 over 3. Okay. So, what's that? Yeah, sine's positive, 4/5. Right. Now, as a general rule, remember this. Sine of theta is your y-coordinate over the radius or the hypotenuse. Radius and hypotenuse, same thing. Cosine is your x-coordinate over the radius, and tangent is y divided by x. And the reason I say that is because nothing you have to memorize. The reason I say this is I might give a coordinate that you can't make a triangle out of. So let's take a look at one of those. It doesn't matter. It picks it up either way. If the coordinate had been something like -3, 0, which was one of your homework problems, all of a sudden you try to graph that point, and it's on the x-axis. It's over here at -3, and there is no reference triangle. I mean, how are you going to drop a point down from that? Yes. Mm-hmm. Sure. All right, back to this problem then. -3. Keep the formulas in mind that R, your hypotenuse, is still the same formula as before. It's the square root of x squared plus y squared. Basically, x squared plus y squared equals your hypotenuse squared, or your R, you know, if you're talking in a circle. It's all still the same distance formula. And when you do that, you get R is +3, because -3 squared is -3 times -3 is +9, plus 0 is 9, and the square root of 9 is 3.
R is the radius, right? Yeah. What are we doing with x squared plus y squared?
We're finding the radius.
But it's also the hypotenuse.
We're doing the same thing we just did on the last problem. And so once we know that R is 3, sine theta is y, which is 0 divided by 3, or 0. Cosine x divided by R. -3 divided by +3 is -1. And tangent is 0, y divided by -3, or 0. We'll try another one here just to make sure you're comfortable, but let you get your notes down on this. Now, if you go back to your unit circle, what was the coordinate out here at this point at pi, or 180 degrees? It was -1 comma 0. -1, 0. It's exactly the same as your unit circle in your notes.
This is where we did homework, so.
Yeah. Yep. So let's do another one. What if the point, yes, go ahead. Yeah, I wrote them down on the previous page. They're right there. All right. Now, let's go to another problem. What if the point had been 0, 4? On your graph, again, it's on the axis. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's right there at 0, 4. I'm going to let you go through and find it. I'm going to pause the recording so you can go through and do this one. Okay, so the answers to this particular problem, sine of theta in this case is exactly 1, because 4 divided by 4 is 1. Cosine of theta is 0, because 0 divided by 4, the x-coordinate divided by r is, by the way, r is 4. And you're right, the tangent of theta is undefined. Why? Because it's y divided by x. What is x? It's 0. When you divide by 0, you get an undefined term. All right. One of your homework problems last night was problem number 14. And the question was this: what are the is sine, cosine, tangent positive or negative? Here's how the question is actually worded. State the sign, positive or negative, of sine, cosine, and tangent given the interval. And so problem number 14 in your book said, given the interval pi over 2 to pi, sine, cosine, and tangent could be positive or negative. It's number 14 in your book. It's on page 381. So you've got to have this memorized for tomorrow, or at least in your notes. 0, pi over 2, pi. Right, pi is 180. So when we're talking about the interval pi over 2 to pi, we're talking about this area, quadrant 2. And they're asking, what is the sine of theta? In the book they say t, it doesn't matter what variable you use. Cosine theta and tangent of theta. Now keep in mind that sine is your y coordinate divided by r, cosine is x divided by r, and tangent is y divided by x. So now you've just got to ask yourself, r is always positive. First of all, r is always positive. You never have a negative radius to a circle. And the hypotenuse is never negative. It's just whatever it is positive. So you're really just asking yourself, in that particular quadrant, are x's positive or negative, or y values positive or negative? X is less than 0, so that means negative. Y is greater than 0, so that means positive. So if you start to evaluate these, you get positive over positive, which means the answer is positive. Negative over positive, which is negative. And positive divided by negative, which is negative. So that's your answer.
Okay.
If I were to do this for all the quadrants, this one's positive, negative, negative. This particular quadrant is positive, 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 because everything's positive there. This one's negative, negative, positive. And this one is positive, negative, positive, negative. Okay. Next section. I will ask you to evaluate some functions, and you can use your calculator. So let's say I ask you to find the tangent of 11 pi over 2. You could set your calculator to radian mode and figure it out. You could think on your unit circle, where does 11 pi over 2 occur? And you're like, it's not on the unit circle at all, because the unit circle stops when you get to 2 pi. Precisely. And so Hannah's got it. It is coterminal, and we can figure it out by subtracting until we keep getting down. So I'll keep subtracting off 4 pi over 2. Why 4 pi over 2? Because 4 pi over 2 is equivalent to 2 pi. And every time I subtract 2 pi, I'm still in the same place. It's sort of like subtracting 360 degrees from a very large number. You're still facing the same way. And you get 7 pi over 2. Still too big. So subtract off another 4 pi over 2. Finally, something that shows up on your circle, it's down here. What are my x and y coordinates? Now this you've got to have memorized, so let me tell you about them, where you end up. This is 0, 0, yes. This is, I'm sorry, it'd be helpful if I gave you the right numbers. That's 1, 0. This is the coordinate 0, 1. This is the coordinate negative 1, 0. And down here, the one you care about is the coordinate 0, negative 1. Just going around the circle, stopping at each of the axes to say what coordinate. It's always going to be a 1 or negative 1 and always a 0. Or 6 pi over 3 or 8 pi over 4. Figure out what the denominators. 2 pi. So if it's 0, negative 1, if you recall, tangent is equal to y divided by x, so it's equal to negative 1 divided by 0. Ooh, it's undefined. Because you're dividing by 0. I would have your entire unit circle available tomorrow. Don't copy it onto a separate note sheet. You can have as many note sheets as you want. Make sure you bring your unit circle to class tomorrow, so that if it ends up at pi over 6 or pi over 3, you just go to your unit circle and go, oh, here's where it is, and I can figure it out from there. Hannah?
I did where we got to the point 0, negative 1, because that is equal
Right.
to 11 pi over 2, but where'd you get the undefined?
Okay, you've got to know this. You've got to know that tangent's y divided by over x. Right, and tangent's what I asked originally. You got it. So bring your unit circle to the quiz tomorrow, and make sure you can use it, because you'll be using the coordinates on there. That'll be your answer.
Did we just
Very basic question. Why is it undefined? Excellent answer. Can't ask for better than that. All right, we're down to our final question. Woo! Thank goodness, right? All right, let's say that I say that the sine of theta equals -4/5. And let me tell you that the tangent of theta is less than 0. Okay, this is going to combine a few things that we've talked about. Right. So if you're doing a triangle, and you basically have a 5 in your hypotenuse and a -4, and we'll get it oriented correctly in a second. I know that's the +4 direction. What's the remaining side have to be? +3. Or negative. You don't know which. But since tangent is less than 0, a negative divided by negative would have been positive, so it's got to be +3. So, you with me on this? So this has got to be +3 because tangent. Now let's draw our reference triangle. And actually, we don't even have to draw the reference triangle. You can solve the problem from here. But this is actually what your triangle is going to look like. It's going to look like over 3 and down 4. That's your reference triangle. 5, -4. But you know what? You can get all your answers off that triangle that I just drew. The question is going to be what's cosine and tangent. Specifically, the questions can be find cosine theta and tangent theta if sine theta is -4/5 and tangent theta is less than 0. Right, so it's 3/5 because that's the cosine formula, and tangent is -4/3. SOHCA, TOA, opposite over adjacent. That's the quiz tomorrow. Good luck, Jenna.